The COVID-19 pandemic has had a negative effect on all sectors of economic life. But one of the most hardest hit sectors is the creative and cultural industry sector, totaling 7% of the country's GDP and accounting for about 1.2 million direct employment opportunities. To give a synopsis and to answer burning and pertinent questions in the context of our province, we have Mr. Bruce Lizwe, representing the Creative and Cultural Industries Federation of South Africa in the Northwest Province.
Hello, Jesus, Jesus children, Jesus love.
All right, I am Bruce Lizwe and CCIFSANW coordinator for the Northwest Province. As you would all know, CCIFSA's primary objective is to defragment the creative sector and commercialize the sector to become industrial. With the advent of COVID over the past year and a half, what has been heavily exposed, how unregulated our sector is, especially in the rural provinces. You'll notice that everybody does everything, yet nobody knows what everybody does. Everybody is in their own silos, everybody is doing their own thing. So what we need to be looking at right now is to start ensuring our practitioners are documented. Our practitioners, we know who's where, who's doing what, at what level that person is. Because right now, interventions that have been taken have turned the industry into, or they are more on the social side, where interventions are primarily to relieve people instead of helping them to get on their feet and practice properly. You know, it's like a spray and hope approach, where it's not what's the word that I can use? It's not targeted. It's not. There's no strategy behind it. It's just relief. But it's not sustainable. What's happening? One of the things that have happened so far, we've looked at the problems that have happened at NAC, and CCIFSA is talking to the local government. What we are trying to do is find out who has applied. If there's 100 people that have applied, and initially those people were going to get 500,000 rand each, the NAC has just gone ahead and cut the budget by up to 60%. Ne? I'm giving you an example of what's happening. And with the budget of now that's left with 40%, a person still has to execute the project that they were originally going to do. So one of the interventions that we are doing is we are engaging our local government to come up with part of the money that has been cut off. The NAC is very keen on this. Our government, through the Office of the Chief Director and now acting HOD, is also very keen on this. It's one of the interventions that are happening. There are also going to be public engagements where we start identifying and creating a comprehensive database of what our practitioners are actually doing in the province, who's doing what. We look at all the relief interventions, like with the BBCDI that have been done by government from first wave, first to second to third wave interventions by government. We have to go through those databases and actually mine that data to kind of identify, okay, this person was relieved because this person is doing this and that in the sector. Already that is helping us to identify or to create a database and identify the skill sets of our practitioners. Because there's been audio-visual specific relief, there's been, I think, relief for performers specifically and things like that. So those little interventions that have actually helped for us to mine better for information of what our practitioners are doing. So all these interventions have to be, all these efforts have to be executed by June at the latest, if anything, or want to start knowing who's doing what, who's where, who's based what, who's practicing inside or outside of the province, what kind of measures will be effective in actually moving the sector forward. So those are the kind of interventions that are happening, and with the different with the sector that we are doing, that we are in. One of the challenges that we have is because of our rural practice. Administration is a big challenge for our practitioners, and there is no institution currently that protects our practitioners. By saying protect, I'm not saying it's for lack of a better word. We lack an institution that nurtures our practitioners for them to be able to practice competitively, or what we end up being survivalists instead of actually people who will be industrial in our approach to the sector. I understand. So those are the kind of things that we have to be working on, and as CIFSA, it's one of the mandates as CIFSA. We are very happy for these kind of conversations where it exposes where the problem lines are. We should be solution oriented going forward. Understand? We've had a lot of conversations as practitioners. We've had a lot of conversations with government. We've had a lot of conversations as individuals where one of the key things is the lack of knowledge or the lack of proper interpretation of legislatively what needs to happen for the artist. The environment for the practitioners should be conducive. Understand? With COVID being more teng kana kotsetsa COVID, people are being exploited, and it's tough. It's a tough period where people are tired of talking. People are tired of workshops. People want to practice, mare they need to know the environment eba practice it's a moyon. I'll give you an example. When you want to drive a car in South Africa, you need a license, or what you will be registered. They know or code 80 or code 10 or code C. There's different levels of what you can drive. Understand? But in our practice, anybody can wake up. A politician will wake up and say, these people are not informed, but I know the rules that they should be working in, and group a few people and then start an organization, and that politician will be the loudest person, mole, exploit these practitioners, and then half it's degree the practitioners in a worse off state than originally where they were. So we need organizations they speak to this, they share information with the artists, they know what artists are doing, and ensure the artists are protected and practice in a way the little money, the little income that can be individually saying relevant to the sector, but they go to actually developing those artists practice. I understand. An example that has been raised a lot ke melao the performance rights, melao ya how do you access dilo tsa gago tsentse ile hore they are diko di taveneng or music wa gago wa dladiwa, but you as the artist you are not benefiting dilo tse di ya lo tlhagay. So with organizations tse di tshwana le CIFS ke mmereko wa bone go protect the legislative part ya dilo tsena ne. Another thing that we have to look at, there's organization di tshwana bo SASCOC. SASCOC was formed by different practices within the sporting fraternity. Okrile bo cricket South Africa, okrabo rugby South Africa, South African Football Association. All of these organizations have their affiliates. Lebone, they are affiliated elsewhere, but locally, ba belong to SASCOC. Now, most South Africa, you've got a problem where Brucey o starta a production. Brucey ka production ya gage, batho ba leng under production ya gage. Brucey bare he's now an organization. Must be affiliated to a federation or something like that, and that is not how it should be working. We should be looking at batho ba botlhe ba ba le mo secting. High lord ke batho ba film. They should all belong to one council. If ile batho ba theater, they should all belong to one council. They can have different organizations and as the individual, but they should register somewhere where they'll be registered under one council. When there's intervention, it no longer speaks to the problems tsa Bruce. It no longer speaks to the problems tsa mang uiwan. Ibuaka the entire sector, because haba kopani ko di organization dilo tsa bone di etsiwa as an umbrella thing, and then the intervention is done to the entire sector. So right now, most interventions ditlo benefit the individually, but they are not long-term solutions. So those are the kind of things that we should be looking at. The Northwest currently has started a film commission task team. But it's a huge challenge to get practitioners to actually believe in that, because when the practitioners look at this, they say, okay, what is now different now? It's the same people leading these organizations. It's the same people speaking this. It's the same people getting the funding all the time. Mare, there's no intervention. This is how we will practice. This is how we will develop. This is where the sector will be in 5, in 10 years' time. You understand? One of our biggest challenges is that we want to plant a tree today and we want the fruit tomorrow morning. We want to plant a tree today and we want to sit in the shade tomorrow morning. We do not build institutions, Mohai. We actually want to support the strong man. And when the strong man is removed, we have no plan to go forward. So we actually need to swallow our pride and not our pride. We need to change the way we are doing if we want to be sustainable as a sector. You know, we need to say, all right, let's have a conversation, an uncomfortable conversation, to say, all right, there's people who are practicing within the sector locally. They're doing administration job. Modi organizations say they are actually doing excellent jobs. I'll give you an example like Bo Ntate Willie Rezang, Bo Ntate France Sema. Those people have been practicing and they lead national organizations, but they are not at the forefront of where the sector is going locally. They are not in the conversations of where the sector is going locally. So we need to have uncomfortable conversations, say who is going to lead the blueprint of the province going forward? Who is going to stop Bruce from going to the department Ali one? Here's my plan for the next 3-5 years. Whereas a council should be saying the plan for the next 5 years, dilo tsena tse 10, and maybe a Bruce thing, maybe a mang eating, maybe a mang eating. That is the only thing that will help us as a sector mo province. Otherwise, we're going to have the same problems and one other thing is the institutional arrangement. You cannot have a province across the country. There's provincial arts councils, and then more Northwest there is no provincial art council. It's been put under an institution in a problem like Mabana. We should look at the institutional arrangement ya mo province who does what and what are the roles of the people. Mabana should be applying for funding kobo PACC instead of managing the PACC. Mabana should be looked at as a glorified arts center. Probably one of its outreach programs, high cancer $1 million for every single community arts center. They'll have better impact for the sector going forward. There should never be a day utlang and officially wako departmenting asa itse gore plan ya bone what ba di bitsa di annual performance plan ya tsa bone ke eng e leng gore ha ya informiwa ke the sector. A few weeks ago, CCIFSA was invited to the annual the strategic plan ya government, but you could see the role yada was to actually fill the register and not really implement anything essential. People had met by government, they already had a plan, they were informing the practitioners of what was going to happen, and they could not understand when you speak from a practitioner's perspective because they've got their own language. So we need conversations the decision makers before if it like the official baba body cultural officer body service center manager body no before if it like the actual decision maker, the political head, the HOD, the chief directors, Badula lead the sector. All right, in terms of the sector, here's the arrangement, and this is what we want to see over the next 10 to 15 years. You understand? We need that uncomfortable conversation to start as soon as possible. For our sector, these are unprecedented times. We are living in a period where we are rewriting what's going to happen, and every time we should always identify there's great opportunities and fortunately the creative sector all the innovation the world is going through from all these engineering developments, architectural, all those things they're informed by the creative sector. You understand? So what we should be heading, where we are as creators, is at a point where we have to produce content. Let us continue to produce content. Let us now start saying, all right, what are the platforms that are in partnership with the content that is needed? You understand? The world has now been forced to no longer operate as it has been operating. So now there's opportunities for our content to no longer be viewed by 5 people and trying to convince 5 people to consume our content. Now our content can now be consumed by millions of people because of what has happened. You understand? So we need to be at a point where we partner with the relevant platforms to distribute our content. So people should not be disheartened by what is happening. They should be looking at what are the opportunities that will come out of this, and we will be exploiting those kind of opportunities. Yeah.